Welcome everybody. Just getting underway now. We've still got a few people logging in, so I'll give it another minute or so while we have people still jump on board. I hope everyone's can hear me fine and video is coming through. Should just be the share screen at this stage, which has got the PowerPoint running on it. We might get going. I think the attendances connections has slowed down a bit, but they can always catch up again later. Well, firstly, everybody, thank you very much for attending our webinar today on business continuity planning. My name is Gene Herder, and I'm a business consultant here at Marsh Tincknell, specialising in assisting our clients with their business development needs. And a few of you have dealt with me in relation to those already. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the webinar environment, we've got some Zoom settings that I'll just take you through now, and you should be able to see my cursor moving on the screen over there. So the first thing is the control panel, which sits down at the bottom of your screen. Now, if that's not visible, hover near the bottom of your screen and that should pop up. You can click on the chat icon, which we've got flashing yellow there every so often. That will pop you up over into the chat area over on the right-hand side of your page. And so that will let you see that stuff. You should be on mute so that we're not all talking over one another, and I'll be the only one talking for now. So that should hopefully give you the brief on the instructions. We've got a few of our team on here today, and I'd like to introduce you to Darren Bowman, who's going to be acting as our moderator today. Now, if you've got any questions, please put them into that chat area, and Darren will collate them. Now, you can either send them direct to Darren, or if you send it to everyone, everyone can see the questions, so we're not all asking the same question all the way through. And we're going to go through those questions. We've allocated time at the end of the seminar, but we'll also run through some if they're appropriate along the way through, and Darren will be able to interject with me on that. Okay, so firstly, as I said, thanks for making the time to listen today to this really important webinar. We appreciate that these are really unprecedented times that we're going through right now, and there's a lot of uncertainty and a great deal of concern that I'm sure all of you have, but all of our staff and the general population has right now. So we want to know that we're here for you, albeit it's remotely at the moment, but we're here to give you whatever support we can to help you get through these difficult times. So here at Marsh Tincknell, we've got 5 core purposes that we live by, and they guide us in terms of who we are and how we act, how we interact with ourselves, and also how we interact with you, our clients. If you've been into the offices in the last couple of years, I'm sure you've seen them on our green boards that are spread throughout the office. So one of those core purposes is excellence. And for us, that means exceeding expectations because we care. So with that in mind, we're here to share with you some practical things that you can do to mitigate the impact of the current COVID-19 pandemic on your business and on your family life. But before we kick off, I just wanted to share a thought with you from JFK. So JFK said, when written in Chinese, the word crisis is composed of 2 characters. One represents danger, and the other represents opportunity. So JFK may have been a little bit incorrect in his translation of the use of the Chinese characters we and J, or G. Apologies for my mispronunciation. But it's now fairly widely used and even used by some Chinese speakers, such has been the depth of it being taken up. But regardless of that, we're currently faced at the moment with a crisis, no doubt about it. At this time, it's a time for real opportunity at the same time. So hence the 2 components of that middle quote. So as we see it, there's an opportunity for you right now to take a leadership role in helping your team in their greatest hour of need, to be proactive in communicating with your clients, and to make a plan to be a more sustainable and resilient business, or in the worst case, a plan to exit your business with the minimum impact on you and your team. So here's today's agenda, and I'm just going to run through this quickly with you all. We're going to go through a few mindsets that I think will help us to keep positive and to keep focused on where we need to be looking. Then we'll go through some things about building a plan for yourself and for your team and for your business. We'll also have a look at an outline of some of the support that's available. Now, I'm going to run through some of the stuff in brief today, just to let you all know we will be having another webinar on Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock, and which will go through this in real detail. But I'll get to more of that as we get to that point, okay? Then we'll look at what your next steps are before we hit any questions. All right. So to put us all in the right frame of mind, I just want to share with you one of the most powerful business models that I've ever seen, and it's called Orbed. So if any of you have done any planning or coaching work with us in the past, you'll have probably seen this one before. So my apologies, but bear with for those that haven't. So in the time of crisis, we've got two choices about how we can respond. We can act below the line, or we can act above the line. So if we act below the line in this current environment, some of the things that we could be doing would be to blame someone else for bringing the virus into our country, to make excuses why there's nothing we can do about it, or to go into denial that there's even an issue. And in doing so, we're going to put ourselves, our team, our business at risk. Or we can act above the line. So we can take ownership, do the things that we can do, focus on that we've got to do something to protect ourselves and our business. And even if that means closing the doors, we can recognize that we're accountable to our team and our clients. And we can take responsibility for protecting ourselves, our team, our customers, and our business from these difficult times. Another above the line behavior is speaking from the I, or taking control of things, whereas below the line is speaking from the you, being out of control and not taking any initiative. Same again, above the line, we're being victors and we're making choices in what we're doing, whereas below the line behavior is being a victim and trying to justify our behavior. So the idea of this mindset is that we have a choice and we mustn't take on being a victim in these times. So as well as acting above the line, we should also consider who we need to be in these times. In other words, what's our personal brand and identity? So if we're not careful, we could act like this. And when I have got through all these pressing client matters, I'll be able to do the things like make a plan to get through this and talk to my team about what this all means for them so that I can be a great leader of my business and my team. But what we're saying is a far better mindset to have would be the other way around. So in order to be a great leader of my business, first I need to do the things like update my plan and get proactive with my team and my customers during this time of crisis. Then I will have the most successful business I can in these difficult times. So to give you an example of that, is about if we're wanting to spend more time with our family and be a better parent, for example, to put that into the be, do, have framework, we need to be the best parent now. So I need to reduce my work hours and develop a great relationship with my family. That's, and if that's what we want to achieve, what we've got to say is we've got to do the be before we can do the do, before we can, have. If that makes sense. The other point in relation to that, under the have, do, be scenario, we're really stagnating and responding, as opposed to the be, do, have scenario, where we're actually looking at focusing on achieving results. So the next mindset I want to take you through is from Richard Branson, and it serves as a great reminder as to where we need to place most of our energy right now. So thinking about who we need to look after first in these times, and we consider that first and foremost needs to be you as the owner. but you've also got a team to be looking after. We've all got customers that we need to look after. And at the end of the day, we need to look after our business too. So what we find as owners is that all of our energy gets split between the team and the customers and the business itself, and we end up with very little to look after ourselves. So what Sir Richard Branson said is that clients don't come first, employees come first. If you take care of your employees, they will take care of your clients. So in line with that, by looking after your team well, they'll be better equipped to look after your customers. For example, if you talk to your team about a change in direction for your sales plan right now to cope with these challenging times, maybe a new product or a new service or a new delivery method, then the team can pass that message on to your existing and your new customers. If you change the direction of that sales message and your team look after and find new customers, then those customers are going to look after your business. And so if that new sales plan is in place, the business will then be able to look after you as the owner. Now, I appreciate this seems a bit oversimplified, and in context, yes, it is. But, and you know, even some of you in this webinar, you're not going to have a team. But the point here is that it all starts with you as the owner. If you're acting above the line, if you remember to be in the essence, and you are making a new plan to sort it out, and that starts with your team so that they can look after your customers, etc., and they're not going to get overwhelmed with all of this, then you're not going to get overwhelmed with all of this. If you don't have a team, the plan needs to start with your customers, who are then going to look after your business. So from Marsh Tincknell's perspective, we really want to help you to build this plan as the business owner. So the Richard Branson model starts with you as a business owner. And let's talk about what we can do to improve your resilience right now. So your well-being is critical. You take an analogy from the airline industry here, just because we've been talking about it. Remember to put the oxygen mask on yourself first. Make sure you stay healthy. Get as much sleep as you possibly can. Keep your exercise going. Although if you want to go buy gym equipment at the moment, it's nearly sold out around the nation, I understand. Get the support that you need. Select your information sources carefully and trying to minimize time spent on social media. Stay calm, stay connected with friends and family, stay positive. Now, focusing on the needs of your family, their health and well-being is extremely important. Make a plan for how they can be supported, especially if someone has to go into isolation. A very empowering thing that you can do right now is to create your own personal budget. So this doesn't need to be complex. It could just be as simple as totaling up your expenditure from the last couple of months, identifying your monthly personal costs, and from there, identify where you can make savings. You know, entertainment, coffee, travel, gifts, holidays, they're all going to be out at the moment, so they can come out of that budget straight away. Every savings you make takes pressure off what the business therefore needs to provide to you. So don't cut costs for essential services and utilities. You know, strong internet connection is probably going to be a must if you're going to work from home. But likewise, you know, think about your personal asset planning too, and planning for your family. Things like making sure your personal insurances, your life insurance, your income protection insurance, your wills, your memorandum of wishes, are they all up to date? Let's make sure that you and your family members have powers of attorney in place where appropriate. And there's different kinds of powers of attorney for you to think about here. I'm just going to run through those for you. So here in Australia, we've got 4 different types of powers of attorney, and they all have a specific use. So the first one I'm going to talk about is called a general non-enduring power of attorney. So a general non-enduring power of attorney is granted to an attorney, so that's someone who acts on your behalf, for a limited purpose. It's used for a specific task, and then once that task is done, that attorney expires. So for example, for a principal, that's the person who grants that attorney, if they're moving into a healthcare facility and they need their attorney to sell their house and that person would grant a general, non-enduring power of attorney. The power of that attorney document, you can outline exactly what you want the attorney to accomplish, and it can detail a range of tasks, or it could be limited to just one task, like sell the house. Once it's sold, that's it, done. The second one is an enduring power of attorney, and that can be either financial or personal matters. So in contrast, this enduring power of attorney for financial and personal issues is designed to be designated to a person to continue making those decisions on your behalf, even in the case of reduced cognitive ability. So take, for example, seniors will often designate this type of power in an event that they're not going to be capable of any future or financial personal management due to, say, dementia or other conditions. So the person giving the power of attorney, though, must be completely capable of making decisions at the time they grant this power of attorney. They must be able to comprehend what's going on. The third one I want to talk about is an enduring power of attorney for medical purposes. So some people seek this enduring power of attorney for medical purposes, especially if they are likely to become impaired or unable to make medical decisions. So it's designed for that power of attorney to kick in, and that attorney to be able to step in and make those decisions on your behalf. People usually will select someone close to them to fill this position, or they may choose a professional who's very familiar with their desires. But the enduring power of attorney medical would allow that attorney to choose an appropriate care in the case the person is in an accident or lost mental capacity or was incapable of making a decision. Now, the fourth one is called a supportive attorney. So the supportive attorney does just what the name implies. It gives support to the person in decision making. So the areas in which the attorney may give support might be financial or personal or medical. The person can only designate one supportive attorney at a time, but may select a backup in case that acting attorney can't fulfill their role. And the real distinction between the supportive powers of attorney and the enduring powers of attorney is that this attorney can't make decisions for the person after that person becomes impaired. Once that occurs, this power is terminated. So now's a good time to make sure you've got these enduring powers of attorney in place. And if you have, let's just quickly review who you've appointed in the past to make sure that person is still capable and or willing to act on your behalf. So let's now just focus a little bit on your team's resilience. Team members are naturally going to be worried about their job security right now. The government stated that there will be job losses at this time, and we've already seen that starting to happen. So our advice is be open with your team. Share your plan with them and be honest about the potential impact that this pandemic is going to have on your business. If there's going to be job losses, ensure you obtain the legal and HR advice for the best way to handle any restructuring and redundancy process. If possible, encourage your team to work from home to minimise the risk of social contact and spread of the virus. Find out who has the technology required to do that, and determine whether additional resources are going to need to be provided. Set aside a day to practice working from home to ensure it's feasible. And here at Marsh Tincknell, we did that last week. We had everyone work from home, check it in, it all worked great, and now most of us are actually working from home, so the office is really operating on skeleton staff. Another factor is make sure you've got a COVID-19 policy in place to keep your team safe and to let them know what support's available to them. And we'll cover off the government support detail shortly. If you don't have a COVID-19 policy template, document template, let us know and we can get you one of those. All right. Your clients, the support you offer your customers right now is going to impact the support your customers can give to you in the future. Customers need to be reassured that you're still operating, that you're taking specific measures to mitigate their exposure to this virus. Your policy should cover the steps in your business is taking to protect your customers. Share this information with them. Give them that reassurance that they're going to be seeking, that you're taking every practical step to reduce the risk and to protect both yourselves, your customers, and your teams. Review your terms of trade and update them to reflect maybe your changing business practices right now. Share your updated terms of trade with your customers. Highlight those key changes. Make particular focus on reviewing your payment terms and your delivery terms. Remember to enforce your terms of trade at this time. It's really important. Don't let customers avoid paying you, as this could have a material impact on your own sustainability of your business. Just as we mentioned earlier, to put the oxygen mask on yourself first, it's essential to make sure you've got sufficient cash coming into your business right now from your customers. Cash is the oxygen your business needs to survive. We'll talk more about the cash flow management stuff shortly, as there's lots of things we can do there. Your suppliers. One of the ways to improve your cash flow is making a plan to deal with your suppliers. What payment arrangements and negotiations can you do there? Can you negotiate some new payment terms? What if you pay up front and ask for a payment discount right now? Or if you don't have sufficient cash flow to pay up front, ask for payments over a longer period of time. Ask if it's possible to hold stock on consignment, where you only are paying for it once you've sold that stock. Look at your purchasing policies. Discuss with your suppliers their supply chain and the measures they're taking to continue supply. Ask about their contingency plans for what might happen if deliveries can't be made or supplies can't be obtained. Consider whether you need to order additional stock where it's available if it's likely to become scarce in the coming months. Usually we'd say, hey, reduce your current minimum reordering levels and consider whether there's some stock that needs to and shouldn't be reordered at all. Review your supplier contracts in regards to return of stock. Discuss whether you can return excess stock that's not selling. Ensure your contracts are up to date if there's any terms that need to change in them. If you can't return stock, consider discounting your slow-moving stock and convert it back into cash. And then please don't reorder that same stock. Review your contracts with your suppliers. Is there any clauses that would allow you to cancel orders or change the terms in the event of an emergency? If you can't meet the terms of your contract, seek some legal advice and negotiate with your supplier. I think the key right now is negotiation. So, the cash conversion cycle. So one of the most important ways to improve your business, especially right now, is to shorten your cash conversion cycle. In other words, get your cash in quicker. And let's take a look at a real example here. And this is set up around a wholesaler. So, and I'll use my mouse on the screen for you so that you can see it and what we're talking about on each one. So the wholesaler buys the stock from their supplier on day 0. And on average, they've got to pay for that stock in 45 days after buying it. The stock doesn't sell straight away when it comes into the warehouse. Some stock sells quickly, other stock takes a while longer, but eventually you might have to discount some of it to move it on. But on average, stock's held for 60 days. So when the stock's sold, credit terms are provided to your customers. And on a number of customers, they may not be observing those credit terms right now, but on average, say it takes another 60 days for your customers to pay you. So now we can calculate your cash conversion cycle. So if we look at the original 60 days on average stock holding, plus the additional 60 days to get paid by your customers, less your 45 days that you've got to pay your suppliers, that equates to 75 days to convert your inputs into your cash. In difficult times such as this, what we need to do is ensure you've got a plan in place to try and shorten this cash conversion cycle. And this is a process we recommend you do as part of your business continuity plan. We've got to use these numbers, which come from your most recent management accounts, and we can work that stuff out for you and provide those to you, and calculate your actual cash conversion cycle right now. And from there, we can discuss with you how we can work to shorten that up and free up more cash. So for example, if your debtors are $50,000 and your turnover is $500,000 per annum, a 10-day reduction in your cash conversion cycle would put $13,700 in your bank account straight away. That's cash that I'm sure you could all really do with right now. So completing your business continuity plan to work out how to free up as much cash as possible is going to be really critical right now. Another area we need to focus on needs to be what we call the Business 101 cycle. So, as we've often said to a lot of you in the past, there's a massive difference between your profit and your cash. Profit is what you pay tax on. Cash is the oxygen your business needs to survive. And what's important here is that as well as improving your cash conversion cycle, you need to make plans to maximize your profit and at the same time finance your business correctly. So let's walk you through this Business 101 cycle. And once again, I'll use my mouse on the screen for you. So starting at the top, as owners, we introduce some cash into the business to buy the assets, or we may borrow to buy those assets so that we can then take those assets and use them to generate our profit. How you increase your profit is to increase your sales or your revenue, and that may be challenging in these difficult times, but still potentially possible. We can increase our margins or our efficiency, or we can trim some of our overhead expenses. So now's a really good time to be looking closely at potential new revenue lines, potential new customers for your services and your products. Maybe a change in direction of your sales strategy, or what we can do to avoid losing existing customers. At the same time, you ought to be looking at how you can improve your margins via efficiency gains, be that better purchasing, reduction in errors and waste, or simply discontinuing with products and services that have a poor margin. Do you even know what those poor margin products are? We can help you identify those. Once you've derived your profit, you need to turn that into cash. So profitable businesses can and do go broke, especially at times like these. You need to be looking at how you can maximize your cash flow using strategies to get paid quicker, reducing your stock levels or your work in progress levels, negotiating better payment terms with your suppliers. Now's not the time to be slow and leaning on your debt collection, as we've discussed. You need money to keep spinning around in the economy. Likewise, you need to be very careful about reordering your stock. Can you operate with less stock, or are there some items that are going to be in short supply? Some other areas to help improve your cash flow are through better terms with your financiers. You can go interest only, for example, on some of your loans. And we're going to cover some more stuff on the finance thing shortly. But likewise, there's lots of tax concessions available right now as well. We'll make sure you can access those. Again, we're going to go through those shortly. So I've talked a lot about your cash conversion cycle and your Business 101 model, but let's have a quick look at the 7 ways to grow your business. And some of you may have seen this before if you've come to our 7 ways to grow your business seminar. Only this time, we're going to use that model to find out other areas to focus on that might reduce the negative impact of the downturn right now. So client retention. What can we do for our customers right now? How can we help them? A lot of them are also going to be struggling so staying in contact with them, seeing how you can hold on to their business now wherever possible is really important. Lead generation. You should also be looking for new avenues to attract new potential customers. Increase your marketing using cost-effective methods like social media right now could be a great way of attracting new business. Number 3 is looking at our prospect conversion rate. Make sure you're making it as easy as possible for people to buy from you right now. Don't give away your value, your product, but can you offer things like delivery or an online ordering option at this time that's just going to make it easier to buy from you? Number 4 is transaction value. Can you encourage your customers to buy a little bit more from you? Other supporting products or services that they're not aware that you have, that maybe you can sell them, or maybe you can start supplying them. Number 5 is transaction frequency. what can you do to encourage your customers to come back more regularly? So for example, locking in their next purchase or the next order, or a little acronym we use, BAMFAM, book a meeting from a meeting at the end of the current transaction. Or at least start asking for referrals, maybe for new customers if your work's more of a one-off nature. Number 6, let's focus on reducing our cost of sales where we can. What can we do to preserve those current margins? Or what can we do to actually not lose as much reduction in margin as potentially could be had right now? So reducing errors, rework, better pricing from our suppliers, focusing on those products and services that give you the greatest margin once again. And lastly, number 7, reducing our overheads. What costs can get removed from the business altogether? So in your budgets that you will have done, travel, entertainment, vehicle costs, they're probably all going to go right now for a lot of businesses. So one of the highest overheads in business is often our interest cost to our financiers. And when you add to that the principal repayments that are required on those loans. And that can be a massive drain on the cash flow of the business right now. There's a number of ways the banks can help you. Look at increasing your temporary overdraft facilities, reviewing and extending any terms of trade credit facilities, asset funding facilities, loan repayment holidays. Most of the banks are offering those right now. My understanding is the CBA has automatically applied 3-month deferrals to all of theirs. NAB, ANZ and Westpac, you need to apply, but you can apply for up to 6-month deferrals. Short-term and hardship loans, there's some of those out there. Short-term mortgage holidays, and there's some business credit card options and things as well. What I would say here is talk to your financiers. Ask. If you asked them last week and were told no, ask again this week, as things and policies are changing rapidly in this area. These are big organisations, and often it takes a little bit of time for that message to get through the upper echelons and through their policy people down to the branch level and things. Keep talking to your financiers. Now, while most business insurance policies are likely to have some exclusions for COVID-19 type pandemics, still important just to review those policies that you've got. Have you got your HR stuff all covered off? Your theft and loss of property stuff, statutory liability, professional indemnity, even your shareholder buyout and key person insurances. It's important that all of these insurances are up to date. Once again, this is an area we can offer you some help and some independent advice before you contact your broker or insurance agent. So government support and tax considerations is probably a real big one for a lot of people right now. So what I'm going to say about this one is that this stuff was current when we finished this presentation off mid last week. So some stuff has potentially updated. But also this stuff is changing really, really rapidly. And the idea of today is I'm not going to go into the stuff in too much depth. We're running a webinar, as you can see on the bottom of that screen there, on this topic in depth on Wednesday, the 1st of April at 8 a.m. So the marketing for that's going to be coming out this afternoon. And I'd encourage you all to attend that session. And that webinar is going to go through all the measures that are currently available in much more detail than what I'm going to cover today. But I'll go through a few of them. So the government has enhanced the boosting cash flow for employers measure that it announced originally on the 12th of March. So it's now providing up to $100,000 to eligible small and medium-sized businesses and also for not-for-profits that employ people. So the minimum payment there is going to be $20,000. And those payments are designed to help businesses and not-for-profits with their cash flow so they can keep operating, paying their rent, electricity, and their other bills, etc., retain their staff. So this measure is designed to benefit around 690,000 businesses, and they're employing 7.8 million people in this country, and also around another 30,000 not-for-profits, including charities. So the small and medium-sized business entities are those with an aggregated turnover, so that's your group turnover, that are under $50 million and that employ workers that are eligible. Not-for-profits, including charities, have got the same aggregated turnover test. So this is going to support employment at a time, especially for not-for-profits, when they're facing increased demand for services in a lot of instances. And in some instances, their revenue sources may have dried up. So under the enhanced scheme, employers are going to receive a payment equal to 100% of the PAYG withheld on wages and salaries. That's up from 50% as originally announced. And with the maximum payment to be increased from $25,000 to $50,000. So that's in addition, their minimum payment was being increased from $2,000 to $10,000. So what's happening with that is an additional payment is going to be made in the July to October 2020 period as well. That takes eligible entities up to receiving an additional payment that will bring the total of overall of the boosting cash flow for employers' payments that they can receive. So this means that eligible entities will receive at least $20,000 up to potentially $100,000 under the combined payments. And once again, we'll go through this one in a lot more detail on Wednesday morning. There's also some temporary relief for financially distressed businesses. So the government's announced that it's increasing the threshold at which creditors can take a statutory demand on a business, and also the time that the companies have to respond to those statutory demands. So that package includes some temporary relief for directors from personal liability for trading while insolvent, and is also providing some temporary flexibility in the Corporations Act. So that's going to provide some targeted and temporary relief from some of the provisions of that Act due to the result of things arising from the coronavirus health crisis right now. The government's also increased the instant asset write-off. So the government's increased the instant asset write-off threshold from $30,000 to $150,000. And they've expanded access to include businesses with an aggregated annual turnover of less than 500 million. So that's up from 50 million. And that runs through to 30 June 2020. So for those businesses that have got apprentices and trainees, and if you're a small business, the government's going to support you to help you retain your apprentices and trainees. So the eligible employers here can apply for a wage subsidy of 50% of that apprentice or trainee's wage for 9 months from the 1st of January through to 30 September 20. So where the small business is not able to retain that apprentice, that subsidy will also be transferred to any new employer that takes on that apprentice. So employers are going to be reimbursed up to a maximum of $21,000 per eligible apprentice or trainee, which equates to $7,000 a quarter. We've also got some payment deferrals have come in. So if your business has been affected by COVID-19, we can work with you to defer some payments and vary some installments that you might have due. Now these are going to include income tax, activity statements, PAYG installments, FBT and excise payments, and some of those deferrals can be up to 6 months. We've also got an option to look at monthly GST registration. Now this could be really worthwhile considering if you temporarily change your reporting cycle, especially if you're due a GST refund. It's just going to mean that that's going to come through on a monthly basis instead of having to wait till the end of the quarter. However, there are a few catches with this one. So if you want to consider this, I recommend you contact us and just talk through what your options are here. Okay. PAYG installments are all due around now. If you're a quarterly PAYG installment payer, you're allowed to vary your PAYG installment on the activity statement for the March 20 quarter. We can do that and we can vary it down to nil. You can do this by lodging a revised activity statement before your installment's due and before you're due to lodge your tax return. So taxpayers that vary their installments down right now can also maybe claim a refund for any installments already paid throughout the year. Once again, we'll talk to you about this stuff as it applies to you. There's some offers on remitting interest and penalties if your business is affected. The ATO are going to consider remitting any interest and penalties that have been incurred after January this year. And there's also some low interest payment plans on offer at the moment. So once again, if your business has been affected and you need help to pay with some of those existing tax facilities, have a talk to us about how we can help you with setting up some low interest payment plans with the ATO. As I mentioned, this is just a few of the measures. And for more detail, please register for that webinar that we're going to be running on Wednesday. And the invites will be coming out this afternoon on that. So we've set out for you the mindsets we think you need to have in these difficult times. We've also talked about what you need to do to look after yourself and your team and your customers. And we've shared some ideas for how we can improve your sales, your margins, your profitability, and your cash flow. And even if that improvement means slowing down the speed of decline right now. And what we've shared here in general terms for you is about the support. It also includes the support that the government and some of the other sources around our nation are supplying to. So right now, it's essential that you decide what you're going to do. Clearly, doing nothing is not an option. Now's the time to put the oxygen mask on yourself and make a plan to get through this crisis, even if that plan involves closing down your business. You're better off making that decision now rather than later on. Part of that planning is to surround yourself with experts. That's us, it's your bank, it's your legal advisors, your HR advisors. We're all here to help you get through this. Remember, stay above the line, live into the be, do, have mindset. Focus on what you can do. So with this in mind, we've developed our business continuity plan and our guide, which I'll show you briefly now. You're going to receive a copy of this. We'll get emailed out to you this afternoon. And let us know in the next day or so if you don't actually receive it. So let me just jump into that right now. Right, and I'll use my mouse on this once again so you can see what we've got. So this is our business continuity plan template that we'll send to you based in Word. So it'll follow through a very similar sort of format to what I've gone through with you today. First, let's focus on you and your family and make sure everyone's okay there. Looking at your personal asset protection, looking at your personal budgets. Next, start and focus in on the team. Your team, what's our policies? How can we communicate with you? What's going to be the ongoing, continuity of their work? Is there some roles that are going to have to change? Do we need to update and reset some of our goals and KPIs for our team? Because they may be very different now. Working from home stuff, are we doing flexi hours with work? What financial support is going to be available to our team members? If we do have to travel, what's our policies on that? And maybe even some restructuring and redundancy stuff. Next, we want to have a look at our customers. Look at those terms of trade. What offers and incentives can we give to our customers to retain them? Let's put in place our policies to deal with and communicate with those customers. Same thing once again. The next one on the list was our suppliers. Look at our payment arrangements. Look at our purchasing policies and our stock holding policies. Return of stock if possible. Reviewing of our contracts. Then we go into that next one of looking at your business. So here's where we can start looking at your cash flow management and your cash flow forecasting. Do you have, for example, a daily or weekly or monthly cash flow forecast that you use? If you don't, let us know. We can send you a template that you can use to go through this stuff. Looking at your accounts receivable, looking at your accounts payable and your inventory policies. Looking at your debt and capital structure, what options you've got there right now. Reviewing those overheads and your gross profit margins. Looking at your sales levels. Identifying any unused assets that we've got that may be surplus to requirements, and maybe we can actually get rid of those right now to free up some cash. Or if we need to, asset purchases. What can we do right now? There's instances of people buying an asset right now on a chattel mortgage, zero deposit, zero payments for 6 months, take advantage of that $150,000 instant asset write-off. And so you may be able to, by the time you claim your GST and your tax break on that, be making money or receiving cash flow in the first 6 months, and hopefully using that asset to earn more money. Looking at our banking, looking at our insurances, looking at what the tax department can offer us, what the government can offer us right now. So the idea of this template is just to be used so that we can actually go through and make sure we review everything that's actually going on right now and cover all our bases. As I said, we're going to send that to you in our on email shortly. Right, so I duck back into our webinar. Also mentioned earlier too, if you don't have a COVID-19 policy document, we've got a template you can use for that as well. So how can we help you in these challenging times? So I've discussed our recommended strategy is to complete this business continuity plan. That's why we've developed the template and the guide, and we're going to send those out to you. We see that you've got 3 options when it comes to doing this. One, you can meet with us in an online meeting naturally. And for some people that could be up to 4 hours. So we'd probably split that into a couple of 2-hour sessions. The advantage of doing this approach is that we're going to be able to work with you to make sure you get all of your entitlements, maximize the amount of support for your business. And we also believe here that combining your expertise and our expertise, we're going to result in a far better plan for you. The second option, utilize that plan template and guidelines that we're going to send to you and have a crack at doing that first draft yourself. Then we can catch up for an online meeting with you for 60 to 90 minutes and finalize off your plan. So that option is going to be really good for people who are comfortable with making those sort of plans themselves, and they're not inundated with other things right now. The risk with this approach is, though, with everything else that's going on right now, you don't get around to doing the plan, and then things are going to start to fall by the wayside. The third option for some of you, utilize that plan template and guide that we're going to send to you. Do the work yourself. Once again, our concern is, while it's free, you may miss out on some of the opportunities to maximize your tax and other entitlements, and there may be other opportunities to improve your cash flow that we can work with you to identify under options 1 and 2. Look, we appreciate it's difficult times to be committing to spending more money right now, but we urge you to take the action required to ensure your business's survival. We want you to be able to claim your maximum entitlements from the government and get whatever other support you can right now and without delay. And we expect the entitlements that you're going to get are going to be far greater than our fees in this area. And more importantly, this is about getting you to make your plan as quickly as possible. So please remember, we're here to help. So, question time. If anyone's got any questions, they can be submitted via that chat panel, and Darren will be able to read them out on your behalf. We're also going to send you out at the completion of the webinar a feedback sheet, so please send that back to us. That's really important because that's going to help us customize services for you and things that you need to help. So I'll also get Darren Bowman, our moderator, and Randall King, who's heading up our stimulus package response team, to join me now for question time. Darren and Randall, welcome aboard. Hopefully you can hear. And perhaps we can go through any questions that may be floating around.
Hi, Gene. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome, Darren. Thanks, mate.
It's very quiet in the room. If anyone does have any questions, please feel free to ask them. Just type them in the chat box and I'll make sure that that question's directed either to Gene or Randall King, being our tax expert. I guess just to reiterate, Randall King will be doing another webinar on Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. To go through all of those government incentives that Jean briefly spoke about. He'll be going through each and every one in a bit more detail, and just to let everyone know exactly what's on offer right now. So I've got a question from Beck. Is there anything we need to do before April 1st so we can be in a good position to claim any and or all of those government incentives? I guess that's a question for you, Randall. I'll hand it over.
Yeah, okay. The government incentives that have been announced thus far have all been revolving around a date of the 12th of March, which was the day that they were first announced. So that's probably the critical date as far as that stimulus package is related to. There are going to be further announcements made later today, I believe, that are going to extend the stimulus packages. I have seen the Treasurer come out and say that they are going to be backdated, but again, that may be back to the 12th of March. We still need to wait and see that. But what we're advising our clients is, if you're not registered as an employer, but you do have people that are actively involved in running the business, you might want to register as an employer if you haven't done so as yet.
Thanks, Randall. We've got another question from Deb Finlay. Will the wage subsidy be covered on Wednesday morning, Randall?
Depends on how much information there is today, but yes, I certainly do intend to cover anything that's announced today or tomorrow in the session on Wednesday.
Thanks, Randall. Any other questions from anybody?
One of the things I was just going to say, if this applies to anybody, if you've got a large loss of revenue going on for your business, and questioning whether do I even bother doing a plan, I'd say yes to that, because the situation's changing daily, and so is the level of support from both the government and other sources. Even talking to us about your situation, because there might be something that we can do to help your business, even if it's to put it into a state of hibernation for a few months and successfully come out of that. It's still worthwhile looking at doing this sort of stuff. The other one, probably in relation to some of the tax strategy stuff right now, I think it's really important for everyone to just focus on making sure we get those BASs lodged nice and quickly right now, because a lot of the initial stimulus stuff is actually focused around BASs being lodged. So our business activity statements getting lodged is really quite important right now. Any other questions coming through, guys? I'm not seeing much else coming up. So we might just move on. By all means, feel free to contact us if you have anything further you want to talk about. But thanks for making the time to attend today. And we appreciate your time. It's really valuable right now. And we hope we've given you a few ideas to start thinking about, especially about how we can support you. But before you go, I just want to share this quote with you. Anyone can lead when the plan is working. Only the best lead when the plan falls apart. So let's make sure we develop that new and better plan to help get us through this difficult time. Thanks everyone for attending. As I've said, we'll send you some feedback forms. Please respond to those. We ask you to do that because that's going to really help us help you guys. And we'll also send you this template and guide for getting going with these plans. All right, thanks very much, guys, for attending. Stay safe out there, and hopefully keep talking to us as well. We're here to help. We're all available. Phones are still being worked and manned, and we'll get passed through to everybody, whether they're working remotely or not. So stay safe, and we'll be in touch with you all soon. All right. Thanks, guys, for attending.